All gone anyway. That's how many takes we had to do. I ran out of my hot chocolate now.
Really?
I did. What's up, guys? This is Josh from Running Scared Motion Pictures, and I'm excited because I brought back a guest that you've seen a couple times now.
Shelley Warren. I'm here to talk about, what are we going to talk about today, Josh?
We're going to talk about something that kind of shocked me because you're like an oil-loving, carbon-burning type of guy. Wow. And what's this behind you? What do we have here?
So we have an electric car behind us, and we're going to talk about electric cars.
Not only are we going to talk about electric cars today, but we're going to take the cameras. We're going to drive. I've never touched an electric car before. I have no experience with it. And Shelley's
and he has no desire to go.
No desire.
No, he has no desire to own one.
None. But Shelley's very excited about it, so I told him, come over and let's shoot this. So without further ado, we are going to go drive a
Chevy Bolt.
What year?
2017.
Okay. And like I said, never been in an electric car before, so
great fun.
Here we go.
Okay. So.
Okay.
Actually, that's pretty good. It's the first time you've ever been in one of these.
All right, huh? So I will say right off the bat, the screens are cool.
Can I flip this around so I can?
No, it doesn't rotate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so my first impression when I just got in right off the bat is there's actually more space in here than I thought there'd be. Like, I'm 6'3", so for me, like, I don't know, it's...
Yeah, you can adjust the seat back. You just put your foot on the brake, push a button.
What button? Where's the start button?
The power button.
Okay.
There, and you're running, so the car's going now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're driving. We're ready to go. This car has a lot of features in it. It has a heated steering wheel, heated seats. Look in the rearview mirror.
Oh, it's a camera.
Yeah.
It's a screen.
It's actually a screen, yeah. So we can make it go away.
Oh, and it's actually, okay.
But if you have people in the back seat or anything like that, because it's kind of tight back there, the screen is pretty cool. It gives you a little wide angle view. The car has a ton of safety features in it, like lane departure. So if it's on the highway and you start to drift off to the road, it actually will correct the car. It'll actually grab the steering wheel and correct it back onto the road. We probably won't play with that because we're not on a highway today. It also has pedestrian alert. So if a pedestrian is coming, you're going to hit a pedestrian, this thing will put the brakes on and stop the car. So it gives you a lot of stuff. Let's just drive around.
All right, here we go.
So, yeah. So you can drive and drive or L, whatever you prefer.
I'll try L. That seems unique. You care which way I go, or?
I don't care.
We'll go left because there's like farms and like nothing down here, so we shouldn't run into.
Okay.
Oh, and you can see how much wattage you're draining.
Oh yeah,
that's
you can see the kilowatt hours. So, and then you let off, you see it's making green, and when it's green, it's actually putting power back into the battery.
Oh wow.
So that's what makes it so efficient. So your gas car, when you're using a gas car and you accelerate, it actually makes heat. Makes the car go faster, but when you let off or you got to slow down, what do you have to do?
Brake,
and you're using friction. So you have a friction pad. All you're doing is making heat.
Yeah.
So you're wasting all that energy. So all that energy you just pumped into something, you're giving it up, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So this is giving it back to you.
Yeah. No. So it drives like a regular car, like pretty much. Oh wow, the braking really is extreme, huh? On L.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, it slows right down. Straight back.
Pull it straight back. There. Now you're on drive.
Oh okay.
Okay. Now you're driving.
Oh now it's normal coast.
It's going to act like a normal car.
Yeah.
So this is all programming. They programmed it to act like a normal car.
Wow.
So it's actually, so it feels like a normal car. Everything's normal about it. So you don't notice anything different than when you're, So. All right. So. Is this thing working?
Yeah. Everything.
I mean, we just got here.
Right? We didn't plan this out. We just walked in from driving your car. Shelley, I just drove an electric vehicle for my first time in my life.
And how did it feel?
It was surprisingly very similar to a regular vehicle.
Yes.
In a good way. That's not like a knock. Like it was.
Yeah,
it felt like at home. It felt like it was very well thought out, and there were things that I liked about it. And I didn't find anything I didn't like about it yet. But what about this car? What you were an oil guy, like I said. I made that joke a little bit earlier, but you were sold on this car. You really wanted to buy it. So let's.
Yeah. So what I wanted to buy was an i3 BMW, but then I discovered some things about them. One of them was they're expensive to have repaired. And they don't have good range. They don't go as far. The Chevy Bolt can go 250 miles on a charge. Actually they can get over 300 miles on a charge during the summertime, and if you drive it nicely. I never get that kind of mileage. But they're very, I ended up with it because when I started researching it, Chevy Bolt had the biggest range for the biggest bang for the buck for driving around. And it's the most normal kind of car. So, but you still have to charge it. It has a couple of different ways of charging it. Can we go into that?
Yeah, so here's what I'm going to do. Let's break this into sections. So we'll start off, I guess, kind of my experience on the initial of like what I saw from the car. So I guess my first impressions, again, like from the outside of it does look like an electric vehicle in a way, but just a very little bit like stylistic choice, not because it's like, hey, we had to make concessions because it's an electric vehicle, so it has to look like this. So I liked that. I liked the style. I liked the design. And when I first got in, I'm 6'3". So I noticed right off the bat, I was kind of like, wow, like I fit in this car. Like the seat felt good. It felt like there was plenty of room. The dash felt stretched out and nice. Everything's modern and sleek and quite honestly felt right. So my overall impression of like the aesthetics of the car were great. I mean, it didn't lack anything that a normal car would have over it, I thought. What's your opinion on the aesthetics to it?
Oh, I think it's fine. Used to drive a Ford Focus.
Ford Focus.
So it's similar to that size. Mm-hmm. It's almost identical. When you park next to one, it's almost the same size as a Ford Focus. Mm-hmm. So did you get the same kind of impression? How did you feel?
Yeah, well, so I guess driving it is kind of where it's going to lead next, right? Driving it was surprising because you had brought up there's two different modes that you can use. Yeah, there is a regular drive mode where when you let off the gas, it coasts like normal. What was the other mode? It was L?
They call it L mode.
L mode. Yeah. What does L stand for?
I do not know.
Oh, okay. Well, so L mode, explain that a little bit. It's
like driving a golf cart.
Yeah, it is.
So what happens is when you accelerate the car, you're using power. So anytime you accelerate a car, you're using power. And then when on an electric car, when you let off the gas and you're in L mode, it charges the battery. So what I really wanted to talk about, or where I really want to go with this, is the efficiency. That's the thing that draws me in. So if we're burning oil in your house, how efficient is it?
Not very.
No, I mean, really.
It's okay.
Do you know?
No, I have no clue.
You don't know. See, that's the thing. Nobody knows. So your furnace, you have almost the same style furnace. You have a cast iron boiler with an oil furnace. They've been making them for a lot of years. 85%. 86%. That's your thermal efficiency, your combustion efficiency, they call it. So do you know what a combustion car is? An internal combustion engine in a car when you're driving your car.
That's your typical, regular, everyday engine that people know about.
How efficient is it, do you think?
Well, I would think higher than 85%.
You would think so. It's only 35.
Really?
Yeah, and what you're actually getting to the tires is around 20%.
Oh, wow.
20 to 30%. So when you burn something, let's burn something that's really efficient. I take a match, I light it up, and I burn it in the room. Okay? Where's the heat from the match go to?
Up.
But it goes into the room, right? Mm-hmm. All of it. 100% of whatever I burnt went into the room. That's 100% efficient. Okay. Because I lit a match and it made 1 BTU and it went into the room, right? What if I light another one?
Same thing.
Same thing. But I need 30,000 of them. So if I let 30,000 of them in the room, what would happen?
You're going to catch on fire.
I'm going to catch on fire because you're a firefighter and you know that. Yeah. Well, what else is going to happen?
It's going to hit quick and just go out.
What else is going to happen? What's the byproduct?
CO?
CO. I'm making CO. So perfect combustion. Let's have a match that's perfect combustion. I'm going to make 3 things. I'm going to make heat. I'm going to make, what am I going to make? Carbon dioxide. What's the third thing I make? When I burn something. Water vapor. Perfect combustion. Every time I burn a fossil fuel, those are the 3 things you make. Perfect combustion. Something called stoichiometric scale. So if I follow the stoichiometric scale, all the lines meet, perfect. Except that's not what happens. You know, you make CO because you don't have perfect combustion throughout when you're burning something. And if we were burning something in this room, we're going to fill the room with CO. We're going to make a lot of CO2. The oxygen levels kind of come down. Eventually, we're going to make CO because we don't get perfect combustion. And eventually, we're going to die. So we're not going to do that, even if we had it in a controlled environment. So we make a flue and we stick it outside. And then we throw that flue gases outside. In the flue gas, there's heat. So now all of a sudden, our efficiency starts to go down. The internal combustion engine does the same thing. We're going to explode some fuel inside a cylinder. We're not going to get it to burn properly, not 100%. It's going to push a piston down. It's going to turn a crankshaft. That's going to turn some stuff in a transmission. It's going to turn a drive shaft. Then it's going to turn a rear. So all of these things. So I might burn at 30% efficiency, which is true. By the time I get down to the tires, I'm only 20% efficient. 20% efficiency. 20%. So you're buying a gallon of gas and you're only getting 20 cents out of it. The rest of it is going away in heat. So even if I get more than that, now I'm driving down the road and I have to do what? Eventually, I have to stop. So I have to put my foot on the brake. So as soon as I put my foot on the brake, I'm making heat. I'm taking friction pads. I'm driving them onto a piece of metal, and I'm just dragging them along until I can stop. And I repeatedly do that. I go, all of that's giving up heat. All it is heat. Your car radiator's giving up about 30% of what you burnt in heat. It's just throwing heat out into the atmosphere. So the electric car is a little better. It gets about 70% of what it's getting into the engine, into the actual electric motor. 70% efficient. Now at the tires, I'm only in the 55 to 60% because I still have to go through a gear and some other stuff. But even at 65%, I'm blowing away a combustion engine. I'm blowing it away. Think about how efficient that is. How much more once you're doing that. So people want to know when you charge your car, well, how much did it cost? So I charged my car Sunday night. It was $4. It was about 165 miles I got. $4. Would you like to go 165 miles for $4?
$4 won't even get you a gallon of gas now, which won't even get me 20 miles. 24 miles.
24 miles for your $4. So just from an economic standpoint, how much sense did that make?
Actually, that's the perfect time to prelude into this, because you're somebody I like talking to because you are informed. You do the research, you put in the time, you make sure you know what you're talking about. I had made a comment the other day about, but doesn't it take more waste, or it's worse for the environment to make an energy efficient car? And you put me in my place and schooled me. So let's talk about that.
Okay, so you're right. You're 100% right. So we got to go dig some lithium out of the ground. We got to build this car. We're going to build a battery. Batteries are recyclable, so they can recover the lithium back out of the battery afterwards. It's a process. It's a lot of work. So it's not an easy process. So what I've read, and I've read quite a bit on it, about when you buy a car, if you were going to only drive it for 36,000 miles, more efficient to use the internal combustion engine. By the time you build the car, draw the gas out of the ground, the oil out of the ground, turn it into gas to the refinery. We do all of those processes. We're good. So we do all of those processes. If we drive the car for about 36,000 miles, internal combustion engine is. How far are you going to drive your internal combustion car? How far do you want to drive it?
On like a full tank of gas, or just in general?
No, totally. In its lifetime.
I mean, I feel like now it's not uncommon to get 200,000 miles out of a vehicle.
Beautiful. So for 36,000 miles, your car was more efficient than my electric car. Mm-hmm. Once my car gets to 36,000 miles, now it makes more sense to be running in the electric car. And for the rest of its life, it makes more sense. And these cars have 200,000 miles on them. People are driving them those kinds of miles. Mm-hmm. So it certainly makes more sense to drive an electric car. Was it fun to drive?
Well, so that's kind of the thing. So the aesthetics of the car were very similar to what a regular car looks like. You know, it did have, I think as a stylistic choice, the Bolt decided to do a few things to make it look kind of like it was down that avenue, but I thought it looked sharp. And when I first got in, I'm 6'3", the space was great. And then, you know, you had talked about the two different drive modes. There's drive and there's L that recuperates and basically recharges the car while you drive. Regular drive mode, honestly, it felt like a normal car. I thought it was really cool that when the car first started and it got put in drive, like you said, the car makes a noise on the outside of it so pedestrians would be able to hear it. Right. It seemed to me like the car had a lot of like, they really put the time and effort into designing these things. It had a lot of like very well worked out features. And then we start driving it. And in regular drive mode, it was very comfortable. It drove just like a normal car, except I feel like it had more power throughout it. No matter where you were on the power, if you touch the gas, that thing shocked me at how fast it just, there's no delay, there's no stutter, there's no lag. It just goes, and it just goes well.
Yeah. Yeah. So from a sport standpoint, if you want to drive it, like drive fast, or you want to race somebody, you can always beat internal combustion cars. Even with my car, that isn't one of the performance type electric cars. It's just a regular electric car. I mean, you know, if you get into a Tesla or Model S or something, you can scream down the road. But the reason that it is so fast is because you don't have a transmission. So it doesn't have to shift. I don't have to get into the power band. So when you used to drive two-stroke motorcycles, where'd you have to be?
You had to be halfway in the throttle at least. There was this perfect spot where once you hit it, the power was there.
Yeah. So this power is the same amount of power at 0 as it is going from 0 to 50 as it is from going 50 to 70. It's the same amount of power. We get a little wind resistance, but the power is still there. The speed comes right on. You don't have to downshift. You don't have to wait to get into the power band. So if you just, you know, if you want to race people from light to light, you always beat them because they have to get that internal engine. They have to get the pistons going up and down. They have to get the transmission to go. They got to move the fluid. They got to do all this stuff. You don't have to do any of that. Yeah. It's just a motor with a gear, and that's it.
Well, like you said, without the transmission and without losing all that efficiency, you don't have things that are just leaking it here and there. It's just, it's efficient. That's how it was designed. Yeah. I thought you're kind of bringing up about like the power and stuff like that. I thought the car hooked up unbelievably well. I had actually asked you, I was like, is this thing all-wheel drive? And you'd said, no, it's only front-wheel drive. And the other thing I had brought up in regards to that was about the weight. In my thought process, I would think that an electric car would be lighter because it has less of those parts. But you had talked about the weight, so discuss that. What about the weight of the car?
It's like 3,500 pounds, so it's a heavy car, but the battery is low, so it handles very well.
Well, so if it's 3,500 pounds, what's a regular car-ish weigh?
So economy car like this is truly an economy car. The battery, a typical weight might be 2,500 pounds, 2,200 pounds or something like that. So this thing's definitely a heavier vehicle, 1,000 pounds heavier. Battery technology is advancing extremely fast right now. So battery technology is coming along. And so I think they're going to go to nickel. I just have this feeling. I've been reading a little bit about it, and it looks like nickel batteries are going to beat lithium batteries. Their weight's less. It's more available. I mean, it has all kinds of advantages to battery technology. The other thing is that we're looking for something else, and hydrogen power is really the right answer because there's hydrogen and water, and we can break it down and then put it back together. But we just haven't figured out how to do it efficiently.
So we talked a little bit about what the car felt like in regular drive mode, but then there was a secondary mode, which was L. And L worked a little bit different. When I put in L mode, the thing I noticed right off the bat, I said to you, I'm like, it kind of feels like a golf cart.
100%.
So how's L mode work? Explain that.
Yeah, so L mode is, and you would think it would be low or something. I do not know why they use L. But L mode is, you can actually let off the gas and the car will stop. And it's not using any braking.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like engine braking on like a truck or something, though. When you let off, it stops you. I was surprised at the force.
It doesn't just slow you down. It can bring you to a full stop.
Oh, no, it stops you. Yeah.
Correct. It can bring you to a full stop. So it takes a little finesse with the gas pedal when you first start driving in L mode. But once you get used to it, you'll drive in L mode all the time. You never use your brakes. So from a maintenance standpoint, if you drive in L mode all the time, you'll never wear out a set of brakes. People are getting 150,000 miles on a set of brakes because you're never using them, which means you're never dissipating heat into the atmosphere to stop the car. So that's a huge savings, because now every time you let off the gas, the power is going back into the battery. So let me just explain kind of like the batteries are not like when you buy a double A battery or AAA battery and you use up all the power. It's because the electrons on one side of a thing went to the other side, and once they're balanced, it can't do it anymore. So you're out of power. So if you think of when you're burning gas, you just put gas into it, it burns it, and it's gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to put power to this, and we're going to shift all the electrons to one side. Or some people use buckets of water. So it's like you filled up this bucket, it's going to transfer to the other bucket. It's very much like that, except for when they're even, it's not going to go lower then, it's only going to get even. So you start at 0, they're both on each side. Now you transfer all the electrons to one side, and then they can come back to the other side. And when they all get over to the other side, you don't have any more power. So how do we do that? How do we transfer them over there? So in L mode is one way. You're using some electrons to move forward, and now you're going to shift back some of them to the other side again. So if you're still going to lose some power because there's some heat. The motor gets hot, right? You're using some heat in the car, maybe. You're using air conditioning in the car. You're every time, so you're overcoming some wind resistance with the car, the friction of the car on the ground. So you're overcoming all these things. So all of those things add so that you're still using power. So don't think that you're getting everything you put in, you get back. You don't. So if you drove up a hill and you used 2 kilowatts to get up the top, and then all of a sudden you go down the other side of it, you're not going to get 2 back. If it's the same size hill, you'll get 1.9 back or something. So you're using power. So there's no free ride.
Whoever invents that's going to be a very rich person, right?
Yeah, there's no free ride. You're still using power. So because I've had people say that to me, like,
that should be electric car slogans. Electric car, there's no free ride.
It's true. So eventually you have to charge your battery. So there's 3 different ways to charge your battery.
Now, would you consider this part of the downside to the electric vehicles? Because you said it's not all great. Is this what you're talking about, or is this still not so bad?
I don't consider charging a problem.
Okay, what?
Yeah,
so,
I mean, there are problems.
So when I think about charging right now, like when I hear it, I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. Like because I've pumped gas forever, I know what to do, I know what to expect. It's simple. I don't like change, but
that's huge.
What do you have to do to get your electric car going?
Yeah, so you can plug it into a 110 volt outlet,
and that's a regular house plug, right?
House plug. Plug it in. You have this connector. We're going to show a picture of it. You plug it in, and it charges the battery. You get 5 miles an hour. So every hour that you have it plugged in, you're only going to get 5 miles. So if you drive 30 miles a day, you can leave it plugged in overnight, and it's fine. You can continue to do that forever. But most of the time, you can drive more than 5 miles.
Yeah, and a full charge, if you did charge it overnight for the 6 hours, you get about how many miles?
5 miles. Well, if you did
what's
for
the
8
maximum,
hours,
though?
Yeah, if you went 8 times 5, it's 45. So you get 45 miles. So if you only used 40 miles during the day, you'd get a full charge every night.
But what's a full charge? Like, what's the maximum time your car could drive on a full charge? Like, what's the mileage limit? I know it varies because it depends on how you drive, but like, would you say it's between 100 and 200? Are we talking?
Oh, no. So it's in this car right now, it has a battery that's been replaced in already, but when it's fully charged, you can go to about 200 miles this time of year. In the summertime, you can go 300 miles almost. So it varies with the temperature, because the colder the battery gets, the less transfer I can get from the electrons from one side to the other.
Yeah.
So when you want to charge your car, you can plug it into a 110 volt outlet. You're only going to get 5 miles an hour or something like that. This is L1 charging, limit 1. They have L2 charging. I have an L2 charger at the house. It's a 240 volt charger.
And that's line voltage, right? That's what comes in, essentially.
240 volts, sort of like the same setup that you have on your dryer. So this thing's connected. Mine's hardwired into the house. It's mounted onto the house. You just plug this thing in. I plug it in at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and by midnight it's charged. So, but you don't have to do anything. You don't have to unplug it or anything. You just leave it plugged in. It sits there until you come back out and you disconnect it, and you're all set and ready to go. So when you keep asking me, how long does it take to charge? 30 seconds. 30 seconds. You just plug it in and that's it. It's going to be fully charged in the morning. I don't have to go to a gas station. It's actually odd to go to a gas station. I went to a gas station not long ago, a convenience store. I was going to the convenience store and I pull in and there was no parking. So I had to park near a gas pump. So I took up a spot at the gas pump, ran inside to the convenience store. But it was kind of like, I felt like a little guilty. So there's also level 3 charging, which is what you do when you're on the road. So we're going to Boston. We're driving down the road. We're using up all our electricity. All our battery. We're getting low. We say, okay, we got to charge. So we go. Now here's where the problem comes. This is the real crutch of the electric car.
This is the reason you would be leery to buy an electric vehicle right here.
If that were my only vehicle at my house, period, I'm just going to have electric cars. So I'm driving to the Cape. I get to Boston. I need to charge up. So they have charging stations at all the rest areas on the Mass Pike right now. I get off. I go to a charging station. I plug it in. 50 minutes to get 80% of my charge. And they charge you a lot of money too. It can be a little pricey. I've only done it a couple of times. It costs like 10, 12 bucks, which I was outraged when I got the bill. I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, typical, like you said, if it costs $4 to do a charge now, if you pay $12, you're 4 times more efficient than a regular vehicle. Like you're almost at that price, you're what a vehicle is, a regular combustion engine vehicle, right?
I'm getting close to it. Yeah. Right? I'm still more efficient. I'm still doing better than that, but it's still like, not much better.
I'm actually surprised to hear that it's as easy it is to charge the vehicles, like you said. If you were going to do a long trip, is there apps you can find so you could like plan charging stations?
Correct. Yeah. So there's a lot of apps that you can run. Electrify America, ChargePoint, all these places have apps. There's not a single one that covers everything. It's I think it's a little sketchy, but it's coming along, so it's getting more and more popular. So I think Tesla has it down pretty good. Tesla has charging stations all across the country, and Elon Musk knew that people wouldn't buy them if they didn't have charging stations. So they put charging stations in. So a lot of people who own Teslas go to charging stations constantly. They don't even have chargers at home, and a lot of people don't have chargers at home. I just find it convenient. Things always fully charged if I plug it in.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
So what would you say, give me some pros and cons for owning an electric vehicle. What are some things you like about it? What are some things you don't?
Yeah. So I love owning it because driving it around, it doesn't cost anything. It really is inexpensive to drive around. The thing, it's small, and I need for my work, I need a truck sometimes, so I have a truck. If it was your only vehicle, if this was going to be your vehicle, you lived alone, or you had a wife, and it was going to be your sole vehicle, now you have a trip problem. So if you're going to take a trip, it's a lot of planning. If you're going to drive to Florida, I'm not driving this car to Florida. There are people doing it. There are people online. I see what they're doing. They love it. And there's people there's a guy that actually lives basically in his car, and he actually set up an air mattress in there, sets the seats down. I'm like, I can't even believe what this guy's doing. He's got a lot more guts than me, and he travels around finding chargers for free. And we were going to go to Randolph. I was going to bring the car to Randolph, but when I found out there's no fast chargers in Randolph that I could find.
So Massachusetts to Vermont, essentially. How far of a trip is that?
140 miles to where we were going to go. And so
you couldn't do it on one? Well, it depends on traffic.
I'd have to drive up, charge up there, and then come back. Gotcha. So if we were going to spend the night, there was a hotel up there that had a charger, but I was like a little sketched on it, and I was like, I didn't know. And one person who actually went there said the chargers weren't working when he was there. So I didn't, I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. So that's the drawback. That's the big drawback right there. So if you have a good charging network, then it's not a problem. You can do whatever you want. So so there are drawbacks.
Yeah. But overall, it seems like your experience has been positive, and you're happy that you have it.
I'm 100% happy with it. I mean, I guess I can say how much I paid for this car. So I bought this car. It's a 2015. I bought it. It was a couple of years old. It came from California, so it had zero rust on it. Looked like brand new. I paid $15,500 for it.
Oh, okay. So that's what a normal,
4,000 miles on it, I think. 24,000 miles on it. So it was like today, because of what's going on in the economy and used car market, there are people selling the same car. I'm selling to Carvana $22,000 to sell in the car for it, and it's for sale on Carvana for $25,000. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I could sell this car and make money on it, which is unheard of.
Yeah, right. The second you drive off a lot, your car deteriorates in value. That's how it's always been.
It has.
This is a different situation. This isn't just because it's electric.
Yeah, this is a little. Yeah, I'm not saying, oh yeah, look at this, but it's just been that kind of market right now. And I'm not selling the car. I'm not interested in selling the car. I love the car. Mm-hmm. It's comfortable. As a matter of fact, anytime I drive anywhere, I drive in the car unless I need to move big things. Mm-hmm.
Actually, I guess that kind of poses a question, because that thing does have a lot of power. I mean, and it is a heavy car. Could you put a tow package on that and tow something with an electric vehicle?
Yeah, so that car is not rated for anything towing. People are doing it.
Yeah. Well, again, I would imagine because of the responsiveness of that thing seems like it should pull anything.
Oh, it would. It would pull.
But if you overload it, does the motor? It must have some sort of protection. It cuts off, or what happens if you?
No, it just goes.
So if you hooked up something that you towed,
oh yeah, you could pull anything with it.
You think it would just go?
Oh, it would go.
Yeah. It seems like
there's people towing boats and everything with it, but I mean, I wouldn't do it. There's nothing back there to connect up to that's strong enough. I would think so. They don't recommend it. Yeah. So they're making electric trucks. So here's the deal with it. So as soon as you decide to make a truck, the efficiency is going to do what?
Go down.
It's going to go down because you have a bigger, heavier vehicle. Mm-hmm. So when people are they're all about electric and they're going to buy a truck. Now I'm kind of like, well, wait a minute. You're losing the whole reason for the efficiency thing. So I'm a little sketched with where the market is going. It's trying to match an internal combustion engine market, and that's not really what it is. Mm-hmm. That's kind of, to me, that's how I feel about it. So I'm not selling electric cars, but I'm just trying to express that if you need a second vehicle for around town stuff, it's the perfect vehicle. It is going to be efficient, mm-hmm. and it is going to help with the energy use. Mm-hmm. And I am, as much as I'm about burning hydrocarbons, which we talked about earlier, as much as I am about burning hydrocarbons, I want to do it efficiently. And I install furnaces once in a while. When I install a furnace, a hot air furnace, natural gas, I'm going to install a 97% efficient furnace. 97% of the fuel that you use goes into the house. 3% go outside. How nice is that?
That'd be great.
Yeah, out of every dollar you put into it, you get 97 cents.
Yeah.
That's really good. If you're driving an electric car and you're putting in $1 and you're getting 60 cents out, doesn't sound that good. But when I drive my truck and I get 20 cents out, the car makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So it's from an energy standpoint, just makes more sense, and it's more fun to drive.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to drive. I was surprised. Yeah. And I think too, again, just the way everything's been going, I feel like, especially for me, now I kind of know where I go, when I'm going there. I'm not venturing out as much. So I think it would be a lot easier for me to sit down and just plan out my trips and figuring out the charging. I feel like it's something that I could do easier than it seems, find the spots around here and kind of transfer over. But I have a 2012 Ford Fusion that I don't have a car payment on, and that's also nice too.
That's huge.
I probably get 24 to 26 miles to the gallon on it. But every time I fuel it up now, it's just to fuel my economy vehicle was like over $60 last week. And I'm just like, man, like, and then like you said, like oil changes and that stuff adds up and then you got to get rid of it. And is there any hidden maintenance fees about these cars that people might not know about, or
no
surprise,
No,
anything?
not yet.
My last question for you was going to be like, would you recommend this? But you pretty much summed it up. It seems like not as a primary vehicle, like we're not quite there yet. Like you should have a gas vehicle if you could, but as a secondary vehicle, or it would be perfect, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're a person who's just driving around town, it's perfect. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. And if you're even if you're taking a trip once in a while, you're going to go up to the White Mountains or something, it's fine. Just know where your charging station is on the other end. If you can spend the night, lots of hotels have level 2 chargers now.
Yeah.
I've been to about 4 hotels that have level 2 chargers right in the parking lots.
Wow.
And some of them are free, some of them you have to pay for. But absolutely, I would not be afraid to do that. The problem comes is if you're going to go to New Jersey, mm-hmm. If you're going to take a 400 or 500 mile trip, now all of a sudden you're going to charge twice. It's, I wouldn't, it's not, I'm going to drive an internal combustion engine. Yeah. I'm just going to drive, if this is going to be my primary car, I'm going to rent a car to do the big trip when I'm going on vacation.
Mm-hmm. In regards to batteries, I don't really know anything about electric cars, obviously, but I did RC cars for a little while.
Yeah.
And when I had first started, like it was like the nickel metal, whatever batteries.
Nickel metal hydride.
Yeah. And you'd get like, I don't know, 10 to 12 minutes. And as they drove, the cars would get slower and slower. But then they came out with LiPo batteries. And LiPo batteries were game changing. It was LiPo batteries and it was brushless motors that came out pretty much back to back. And now you could have a nitro RC car that's fast, you have motor work done to it. It will not touch an electric car. Right. Electric cars now, like the RC cars, they're so powerful. They have too much power. You cannot even control what they're capable of doing. Like you have to dumb them down. And then the charge time got longer. Like now you went from 10 minutes where the car was kind of dying out, halfway through that. Now I'd say you get about like, again, depending on how hard you were on the throttle, but between like 20 and 30 minutes. But that's what you get out of a tank of gas in an RC car.
Right.
But in just a few years, they made not only the technology leaps from brushed to brushless, so they got that efficiency. Like, I'm curious if any of that technology is transferring over, or even just the fact, like, to see how far RC cars come in just a few short years. Like, especially now, like, it seems like there's probably going to be more research and development that goes into electric and battery I don't think
it's happening.
Oil's not coming down anytime soon. So I'm actually really excited to see, like, in the next 3 years, like, where could they be? Like, there might be a vehicle out there that is almost like a 1-for-1 efficient. Like when you let it, like, we're close, right? Like the technology's almost there.
It is. You're still going to use energy. You have to use energy.
It's
not. There's no free game.
From what we know right now, Shelley. I don't. Have you ever seen Ancient Aliens? Because I don't know.
I don't know. So when you talk about the motors, it's interesting because electric motors in furnaces, they were PSC. They're permanent split capacitor motors. That's what we use forever. 60% efficient, something like that. Now they do ECM motors, electrically commutated motors. That's the kind of motor you're talking about, a brushless motor. Mm-hmm. So electrically commutated motors, they're running in the 80s, 90% efficient. So that motor is super efficient. The other thing with a motor is when a motor starts, like a permanent split capacitor motor, it draws its lock rotor amp. So things not moving, you start sending electricity through. The electricity is flowing through there. The motor's starting to turn slowly, and it's getting faster and faster and faster. And then it comes up to speed, and once it comes up to speed, the amp draw drops off and everything does. With an electrically commutated motor, you can put a little bit of power on it and say turn, and it starts to turn slowly. And then you put a little more, a little more, a little more, and it gets faster and faster and faster. And then you can regulate that power very, very efficiently. And you're not dissipating heat to regulate the motor. You're actually, that's what the motor's using. And that's why you're getting such long run times out of your RC cars. So that technology is, and if you put full power to the motor, that motor's going to go full speed. So all of these cars, they have software in them, and you're basically telling it not to do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd break. There are people who are doing high performance with these things, and they go in and rewrite the software, get rid of the curves, and all of a sudden they're breaking drive shafts.
Well, I asked you earlier, what's the max speed of your car?
93 miles an hour.
Right, but that's because it's completely electronically controlled and governed.
100%. Yep, that's all they give you, 93. And it just, 8,000 RPMs on the motor, that's it. That's all it gives you.
And we had talked actually yesterday at a family dinner about, so 93 miles an hour, but electric and autonomous cars talking to each other about how they could drive on the highway.
Yeah.
Bring that up.
Oh, yeah. So you could drive, my feeling is that fully autonomous cars are coming soon. And
now by autonomous, you just mean cars that drive themselves, that talk to other cars? What do you mean by that?
They drive themselves.
Okay.
So, and I want you to think about this. Let's say they had autonomous cars. This isn't really part of this conversation, but let's go down that road just a little bit. You're going to drive, if you had an autonomous car, let's say you don't have a car. I don't have a car. I just pick up my phone, hit an app, and say, send a car. And the car drives itself over here. There's no driver. It shows up here. It beeps my app. I walk out, get in this car, and I go, bring me to Big Y. Bring me to the grocery store. I sit in the car, brings me over to the grocery store. That car leaves. I go shopping. I come back out. Oh, I need a car. Car comes back.
Different car,
think about it. Different car.
Maybe the same one, right?
Maybe the same car. Think about that. So all of a sudden, ownership of a car isn't a thing anymore. If you could get to that point, think about and we have that technology. We don't have it perfect yet, but we're working towards it. So you're looking in 5 to 10 years, this could be here. Once AI, artificial intelligence, really comes to being, that can be a real thing. So you'll just pay for when you need the car, and the rest of the time you don't pay for it.
Yeah.
And then that car goes and charges itself, and then it's being used for other people.
The problem I see with that, as great as it is, if we were filming this live right now, I'd have to go over and call 911 to send him over to Matt Bianchi's house, because the fact of like not owning car and him being a car guy, like that's my concern. Like even if you made like these autonomous cars that can drive on the highway at 90 miles an hour, bumper to bumper, that are seamless, that won't hit anything, cause accidents, there's still people that are not going to give up their regular vehicles. Like
100%.
Yeah, cars are one of those things that people like they're attached
There's an emotional attachment.
Oh, absolutely.
There's an emotional attachment to your car. There's an emotional attachment to the internal combustion engine. Just
the sound, the feel,
go over to your father's house and start his truck. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, so your car, when you get on the gas, it had power and it had go, but it lacked the engine sound. Like, we, on my honeymoon, my wife and I had rented a convertible Mustang. Oh, yeah. And we were in the Keys, and there's some bridges that are pretty straight. So I'm like, okay, animals are going to run out in front of, yeah. So I opened her up a little bit, and like, that's, Matt had a company called Itchy Foot. And like, that's the thing about car guys, like you got to itch, it's the gas. It's like the only cure. And there's something about that. Like when that car opened up, like it was exciting, but there was also like, I almost felt like I was like, as weird as it is, because it made no noise, like a rocket ship when I was in your car and I got on the gas, because it's like you don't hear the noise, but the torque is different. It feels different when it puts you back in the seat. Yeah, I was surprised by that.
Yeah. And we didn't even get on it really, because we had the cameras and all the audio equipment. So but it can put you back in the seat. Which is pretty amazing. And it's in a cheap economy electric car. It's not even like a performance one. So wrap us up, Josh.
Yeah, no, hey Shelly, it was great having you down. Again, I like having you on because you always, not only do you find cool things like electric vehicles, but you dig into them, you figure out the technology behind them. So I'm sure we'll have you on for something else. And actually, it's not quite as technological. I think we're going back the other way, but I want to take apart a VCR and clean it with you and film that, because people don't see that anymore until we got to do it anyway, right? So we might as well. So we're all about the new technology, but we still love the old stuff too, right?
That's right.
New technology, old technology.
Thank you. Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, right. Okay, all right. Dude, I'm old too now. It's like, look at this guy. I've been trimming the beard, and I said to Jesse the other day, I'm like, I really liked it, but I'm like, there is a lot of gray in this bad boy now. Like, I'm getting old.
You're there.
This is Josh from Running Scared Motion Pictures. Thanks for tuning in and listening to our talk about electric vehicles. Shelly, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.